I take this oath under protest and in the hope that one day my fellow citizens will democratically decide to live in a republic.
Stability will be the cornerstone of my government's economic policy.
We've just had an election, and that's followed by a king sitting on a throne with a crown on his head in the House of Lords, the undemocratic bit of our parliament, reading out our government's speech. And it just kind of smacks as a bit of an odd moment in a supposedly democratic system.
This week, King Charles delivered the Labour government's first King's Speech in the House of Lords. But does anyone actually care? We came to Charles's backyard, St James's Park, to ask people what they think about the royal family.
My initial gut instinct used to be yes, because they bring in so much money. This is like from tourism and everything. But the more I got into contact with like my political friends and everything, the more we came to understanding of other countries have managed to dissemble away from that and do it successfully. So there is nothing stopping us unless that sense of like the British Empire, which is something that I guess could easily, not easily actually, be diminished after a while. But yeah, I think you could get rid of it.
I'm an economist by training, so if you think about the overall revenue brought to the government from the royal family compared to cost, it's actually net positive. Right, so if you had beating the retreat here for the past 3 days, the number of tourists that have been in London, part of the important thing that they come to see is the pomp and the ceremony of the royal family. So I've got no doubt at all that the royal family is a net positive for the UK economy.
People's tax are going towards funding people who decide to have 8 children and not to work, and they don't bring in anything to the economy at all. I think they live in gilded cages. I don't think it's all great as the public might perceive, that, you know, they've got this lovely life. I think they have a hard life and they're not free to choose the life they want to live. So I admire them for doing their duty. So if I use Kate as an example, who would want to be royal with cancer and in the public eye and have to come out and tell the world that you've got that just so you're left alone? Yeah. And I don't think they... maybe like most of us, you just get on with your life and you don't actually stop and say, hang on a minute, do I want to do this? Especially if you've been born into it year after year after year. It's a very hard thing to suddenly say, well, actually, I don't want to do this, I don't want to be that. And it hasn't worked for Harry.
You know, who in the world would want to be Prince William or Kate Middleton, right?
Well, maybe if you're really poor, you might want to. I don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe. Fair enough, right? But I think the amount of scrutiny that they get, most people would have no interest in that at all. So, like, I understand the argument about is it fair to have sort of a hereditary sort of right to a position. You could do an elected position instead and have a president who would have the same sort of privileges, etc. I'm not sure that's a better system.
Crown is the equivalent of the human soul in philosophy. It is the source of all authority.
Well, we don't live in Harry Potter land. We live in a real democracy where people want rights and citizenship and they want to be treated as equals, and we don't rely on magic and fairy tales like you keep on going on about.
I think it's a bit really Americans, but I think it's a bit of like a fantasy, like princes and princesses. I think Americans really romanticize it a lot, and I think Americans think of like UK, like England, as like tea time and like the royal family, when maybe in reality it's not. It doesn't represent the entire country, but it's very deeply romanticized, I would say.
Europeans do.
Yeah.
Like castles and like the history. It's very rich history. You can't erase history.
Well, I think it's very important. I know that there are lots of debates going on about whether it's still worth to keep the royal family, what is going on. I mean, I suppose even in the UK there are many people against them, sort of, to say that it's very expensive. But I think if we just kind of abolish all the traditions everywhere and anywhere, then why would countries be different from each other? So I think it's part of UK life and part of United Kingdom or England to have the royal family. So I don't think, I mean, there are so many other things that cost money in a country, so I don't think that should be a question. I mean, that's my opinion.
Yeah. You can tell so much from the colourful coverage of my oaths. Treason season, traitor, disgrace. What they're trying to cover up through their confected anger is the fear that enough people might start asking questions about the very limited nature of our democracy.
I think when it was the Queen, everyone was more for it.
Yeah, and now that it's not, it's just like, oh, no one particularly liked Charles before. I don't think people's view has changed, and yeah, they have loads of money and people don't. Like, we're in the cost of living crisis and it's really unfair, everything that they get, and people are struggling. Like, how is it real that that's the thing that happens? Yeah.
Say if we, you know, got rid of the monarchy entirely and became a republic, do you think not that the tradition of and the history of the royal family would still continue? You know, the palace would still be there, it could be opened up as like a museum or something.
The appeal of coming to this country would be lost a little bit. Because, as I said, a lot of people come here because of history, because of tradition, and because, you know, the royal family is so appealing to them, and they want to learn, they want to be here, you know, they want to share. And so I think that there would be a big aspect that it would be lost if that was to, you know, to finish.
But I think it's the older generations that like the royal family, and you've got people who don't really care, and then I think the young generations don't support it. So I don't think it will happen in our lifetime. But I think, yeah, maybe George's children.
Reference to crowd, it's probably not real.
I think part of it is real, that's fine.
Yeah, let me pretend. But yeah, there was the episode in it, and they said of like, we're all sort of taught to act a certain way because everyone looks up to us, and they see us as if we're celebrities, and this is a fairy tale of all the gold, all the glamour when you're looking at it. And I think now people are fed up of it, and the idea now, we don't want to watch famous people like Kim Kardashian as well. We don't want to watch people do that. We want to have someone who's real. The people we look up to now are the people who are raw and truthful. And I think potentially if the royal family started being a bit more real and raw, then we might seem, you know, a bit more lenient towards them. But
So maybe if they didn't live in a palace.
that would be, yes, much appreciated.
I'm an internationalist. I have a master's in international relations, right? I studied a lot about the politics and world politics. And I always liked, you know, how UK runs the system. Because if you were directly ruled by a king itself, right, you were under the full subjugation, then it would be difficult. But I see, like, you have your parliament, your decisions are taken, your prime minister, you have a parliament, you have a public say.
I mean, Hungary has been a kingdom until the 1940s, but we had actually lost our own royal family many hundreds of years ago. We were part of the Austro-Hungarian monarchy, as like the last part, and so right now we don't have a royal family. Orban. His name is Viktor Orban. Well, I mean, I don't know where this interview is going to come along, but my opinion is pretty frank. I mean, I think it's really terrible. He's trying to dismantle the democratic institutions in Hungary, so that's very bad direction, but we just hope that someday he's gonna leave us. So I wish we had a royal family.
What's your thoughts on your upcoming election? We've just had ours, so...
We can talk about it. And in the US it's a very sensitive topic, but let's just maybe not talk about it.
I'm a little bit like...
We're really upset about the situation.
I'm really upset about the situation. I don't think either is like...
Will you vote?
A good option. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will for sure.
Well, we are in New York, so it will be pretty unanimous vote.
I think you have to vote. It's like your civic duty, at least, to say like...
Did you register?
I will. Not yet. I'm just a new citizen, but yeah.
I did register it, but it's...
You have to. Voting is sexy. That's what I think. For me, it's the videos of when George, like, I think it might have been either the last Euros or World Cup, but he like cheered and then went like this to make sure his shirt was tucked in. And he was in primary school at this point, and I was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? It's just such a weird thing.